At 26, Alina had carried a quiet life marked by sacrifice, duty, and the weight of expectations far heavier than her delicate frame suggested, and when her parents announced that she would be marrying Alexander Drake, the cold-eyed, stone-hearted millionaire known for buying companies like toys and crushing emotions like dust, she felt something inside her go utterly still, as if the future she dreamed of had been sealed away forever, but she walked into the arrangement with her chin high. Because her family needed saving, their debt drowning them, and Alexander's offer was the lifeline none of them could refuse, even though everyone whispered about his heart being long dead, locked away after betrayals only money could afford to erase. And so on the wedding night, while the world celebrated a union built on desperation rather than love, Alina's trembling hands held the bouquet like a shield, and Alexander's jaw was so tight it seemed carved from marble, his eyes never revealing a flicker of warmth, making her feel like a stranger stepping into a storm she had never learned to navigate. Yet despite her fear, she kept her voice steady when he leaned close and said in that deep, cold tone, "I hope you understand this marriage is a contract, nothing more," words that should have shattered her but instead awakened something fierce inside her. Because she had faced cruelty, poverty, and loneliness her entire life, she would not let this man, no matter how powerful, define her worth. And so when they entered his sprawling mansion that felt more like a museum than a home, Alina inhaled deeply, promising herself that she would survive this, even thrive. But then came the moment she dreaded, their first night together, the heavy silence pressing against her chest like a weight, her heart pounding as she followed him into the vast master bedroom where city light spilled across the walls like fractured stars, and she wondered if she would be swallowed whole by the emptiness of this life. But what happened next was something neither of them expected. Alexander, who had spent years building an armor the world could not penetrate, suddenly paused, his hand frozen on the cufflink he was removing, his eyes softening for the first time since she met him, and he whispered, almost to himself, "You're scared," as though the realization startled him, and Alina, who had prepared herself for coldness, cruelty, and commands, felt tears prick her eyes, not from fear, but because hearing even the smallest trace of concern in his voice felt like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. And as she stepped back, unsure whether he meant to mock her or comfort her, he surprised her further by walking past her and opening the balcony doors, letting the night breeze sweep into the room. He stood there for a long moment, staring at the dark skyline, and then said with a heaviness she wasn't prepared for, "No one should begin a marriage like this, not you." And when he turned around, the soulless millionaire everyone feared looked strangely human, vulnerable even, as if the shadows behind his eyes told stories he had never shared, stories of betrayal, of being used, of giving someone his entire heart only to have it thrown away. And though he didn't speak those details aloud, Alina felt them in the way he avoided her gaze, in the way his chest rose and fell like he was fighting something inside him. Then suddenly, the power dynamic shifted. She became the one seeing him, truly seeing him, and instead of shrinking from him, she stepped closer, lifting her trembling voice as she said, "We don't have to be strangers." And those words, gentle, simple, and brave, struck him harder than any business battle ever had. His throat tightened, his usual composure wavering, and for the first time since he was a boy, Alexander Drake didn't know what to do, because this woman he had married for convenience, for contract, for control, was breaking through walls he thought were unbreakable. And on their first night, instead of fear consuming her, compassion guided her, and instead of him dominating the moment with icy authority, he stepped back, breathed deeply, and said, "I won't touch you unless it's what you want," a promise so unexpected that Alina felt her heart shift within her chest, not toward love, not yet, but toward understanding, and that was the beginning of everything. They talked that night, truly talked, for hours, about their childhoods, their fears, their duties, their wounds, the world outside their carefully crafted facades fading away as the stars wheeled above them. And by dawn, the soulless millionaire the world feared was sitting beside her on the balcony floor, their shoulders accidentally brushing every now and then, sending small sparks of warmth into the cold space between them. And though they were still strangers in many ways, something irreversible had changed. Something tender had awakened where there once was only ice. And as the first light touched his face, Alexander looked at her with a softness he didn't try to hide and said quietly, "Maybe this marriage doesn't have to destroy us." And Alina, exhausted but strangely hopeful, whispered back, "Maybe it can save us instead." And with that single exchange, the walls that defined their lives began to crack, letting hope, just a little, begin to bloom. And to everyone watching this story unfold, if you want to see what happens next, how their broken worlds collide, heal, and transform into something powerful, emotional, and unforgettable, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because the journey is only beginning, and you don't want to miss what comes next.